I'm joined today by Eric Kona and Anna Greta Maziotta, both senior faculty members at CTI. There are many reasons that inspire us to be coaches, and humanity is often at the heart of that quest. This leads me on to introduce their incredibly inspirational story. When the opportunity came up to deliver coactive fundamentals in a correctional center in Arizona, they saw that the power of coaching would have a transformative effect on the residents. What they didn't quite realize was how transformative it would be for them also. Eric, Anna Greta, welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
So can you start by telling me how the opportunity to coach the residents of Saguaro Correctional Facility came about and what the intention of the training was?
It was really a magical moment of synchronicity because I had wanted to teach in the prison. I wanted to volunteer actually in the prison for a very long time. I reached out to an organization, the Reentry Coaching Academy, who was looking to bring coaching skills within the prison. I had just interviewed Eric, who was talking about how he would love to do prison work. So there was a meeting. I invited Eric as well as Rule Hunt, who is also a CTI trained coach who'd been doing prison work independently in predominantly Oklahoma and I think Colorado. Anyway, there was this coming together of people interested in doing this in a kind of a wonderful way.
I was supposed to go in 20 years ago to San Quentin, and I got flagged because I had a prior conviction. So this is, for me, the culmination of over a 20-year dream.
I mean, it's interesting because, you know, we went to the desert to deliver this. It was in Arizona. And I think I've always thought prisons are kind of a desert emotionally. And there's not much that there are other programs, but I always thought it would be wonderful to deliver this rich material to people who were hungry.
Yeah, I want to make a shout out to RICO, which Anna Greta already mentioned, which stands for Reentry Coaching Academy. The work they did before we even came in was phenomenal, of creating a room full of people that were really ready, willing, and open to coactivity.
Can you tell me about how you designed in the moment when working together with the residents? You know, what did you have to factor in?
Well, go ahead, Anna Greta. I can see you have something. What?
Because we had things like, you know, the bathrooms close at 2:15. And so like in the middle of something and, you know, an officer would come in and say, you know, 15 minutes till the bathrooms close. And we were like, okay, bathroom break. So there was crazy or a count. I think twice a day they came in to do a count, which was, you know, all the action stopped and the residents had to give they would give their number to make sure everybody was present. There were like, you never knew, we would show up at 8 o'clock and we'd have to wait for all the residents to come and we had no idea when they would come. So because there's so many factors that are happening.
Yeah, we had to dance a lot with what Anna Greta's talking about, the timing of things, you know, because we also had to be out at a, you know, like a hard stop. I think what was like 4 o'clock or something.
4,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. So we had to dance with all that, but magically we got everything in. Everything that would be in a regular fundamentals, they got.
And then some.
So yeah, one of the things that we also, and this is credit to Rika, our assistants were people that worked for Rika. They were formerly incarcerated. They knew how, because they're all coaches now, they knew the power of coaching, and they were really great at whatever we were teaching. They were helping the residents see how it could be used inside. So that was also, I think, a real plus.
Like Designed Alliance, for example, when we talked about alliance, usually in that fundamentals course, it's with your client, which we were teaching in that context as well. However, in addition to that, our assistants were saying things like, you could design an alliance with a correctional officer. And they talked about how they had designed with actually the former correctional officer / deputy warden in order to create this program. So it was really powerful to have him there. He was amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And the two women that were assistants, by the way, are CPCCs. So they've gone through I believe they went through, like, they got a scholarship. So they're one of us.
One of them is
Which
just
is
got
also,
scholarship to leadership now.
yeah. And they were, the contribution they made was immeasurable.
So for the participants, what would you say was the most powerful or transformational element in the program? And how do you see that sort of transpiring into the learning that they're taking into their future dreams?
Yeah, I think the content, of course, coactivity, they got the content. And I think even more important was the way, CTI delivers, created intimacy, created vulnerability, created an authenticity that I'm making up is rare in environments like correctional facilities. So they walked away with a whole new paradigm shift. So Anna Greta walked up to one of the participants, at the beginning of fundamentals, we asked, "What's your dream?" She walked up to him and she said, "What's your dream? Why don't you pick it up? Because this happened to you, Anna Greta." I'll finish that.
He looked at me like I was stark raving mad, like, like, what's the dream? Like, really? And, I said, other than being out of here, and we got through it. We got through that part, but he really, I could see he thought I was a mad woman, just completely out of touch. And at the end of the time with them in our completion, he actually said, "I know what my dream is now." Our fundamentals course was a component in a larger program. And so he got clarity. He believed enough in himself that he knew he now wanted to do this facilitation. The other thing I think was really powerful and transformative was, we talk about people are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. So I think we really taught fundamentals / leadership. I mean, I taught leadership for 10 years with CTI. And Eric and I, by the way, back to like our designed alliance, I think there was so much trust. Like if Eric went in a direction, I was completely, like, you go. And there was a lot of, there was just a total trust in what the other one was doing in terms of what we were dancing with. But the come from, I think, about acknowledging people and seeing the magnificence in them was profound. That was the most transformative thing, because there's a lot. I mean, they were told many negative things about who they were growing up, and then there were actions that they had to live with. So there was just a huge amount of negative self-talk sounds too trivial to describe, guilt, shame that we were addressing. And so for people to come in and talk to them and tell them about the good qualities, that was huge.
And to create the safe environment for them to be able to be vulnerable, right?
Yes. Yeah. As I mentioned, I think that, and I think that's the secret sauce of coactive training, is, and when I say secret, is because we don't generally lead with that. We don't say, come to our workshops. You're gonna, have an authentic experience and intimacy will get created. But that's what generally happens in all workshops that we do.
As highly experienced coaches yourselves, you've expressed that it was an extremely transformational experience for the two of you as well. Can you talk more about that?
Well, it's very humbling. It's very humbling, to be trusted in an environment that is, a prison system is a whole culture unto itself with all sorts of rules that Eric and I know nothing of. It has its own economy. It also, I became aware of the fact that the prison, like everyone is at level 3, which is
they're experts at level 3.
Yeah, like we heard, this is a little detour, but we heard that the officer who was sitting in our room, just kind of, as monitoring things, she was stopped several times a day in the hall by other, or on the block, by other inmates saying, what's going on down there? We can feel it. We want in. So that was amazing because there was so much positivity coming out of that part of the prison. There was this a Hawaiian resident who had been a dancer in Hawaii, who ended up on the 3rd day dancing a Hawaiian dance. And and he was a really shy, like very reluctant, full of a lot of shame. And he did this dance, and a guitarist appeared out of nowhere. We didn't even know who he was. He just showed up. So he'd obviously arranged it.
A beautiful voice, beautiful song.
Mm-hmm.
And this shy person that was in the class just lit up. And, it was a brilliant display of the talent that this man has.
Oh, and beauty, like again,
Yeah.
like what I'm speaking to about people are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. For me, I always translate that to people are magnificent. And there's a lot of stuff we may do along the way, right? So, but we were calling forth the magnificence in these people, and this guy came forth, and he, the other inmates, residents who were from Hawaii, one guy just kept sobbing. He couldn't stop. He just said, you took me home to the islands. And so, everybody was so moved by this, and the courage of that was amazing.
You talk about what was the transformation for us. Those 3 days I will never forget.
It was a collaboration to make it happen. A lot of people, believed in these men to make it happen. So it was a real privilege to be there. I like to feed people, like actually cook. We're coming up on Thanksgiving here. So I like to feed people. And there is a difference between feeding people who have been, eating 3 solid meals a day versus people who haven't been fed in a long time. So I think that was what was so deeply satisfying, to just, it really mattered that we were there.
Yeah, there was a person that didn't speak at all. And then we did the peak experience exercise. And when we were debriefing it in the group, he shared something that was, to me, remarkable. In the exercise, we asked, the participants to get in touch with their senses, their sight, smell, touch, taste. And I was thinking as I was doing this, is this going to fly in this environment? And this person talked about a peak experience he had it inside, where he was working with a team. I think it was a welding job. It was some kind of job that they were doing as a team, but it was the camaraderie. It was the dedication to doing a good job. And then he talked about how every day they got homemade chocolate chip cookies. And he just was describing how wonderful that was on a daily basis to get. And I can't explain it, but him talking about the chocolate chip cookies, just, you know, it was amazing to witness. It was a sensory experience. It's like we were all there. We were on his crew. You know, I mean, like in that moment, we were all there with him, which also goes to show that, you know, even behind, and I'm saying this metaphorically because this person didn't have bars, but when you're behind bars, you can have peak experiences. You know, they exist.
What was your feedback that you received from the residents? Was there anything that came out specifically that you want to share?
Their biggest complaint was they wanted more time with us. They want more. And that was the only complaint, I think. The rest was all like they loved it. They you know, the tools that we taught, you know, listening, curiosity, acknowledgement was really, a lot of the feedback was around that.
Yeah, somebody wrote, you know, this has changed my life. Like that. I mean, I thought about it after, I mean, I thought about it a lot before, and I've thought about it a lot since. And one of the things I've thought about is like, imagine, I think even maybe worse than being imprisoned, but imagine, this could make me cry, not having the ability to utilize your life for something good. Imagine that. Like, I think that's the deepest longing in people, is to make a difference. And that, you know, not only have you done something that, you know, if you're guilty of whatever you've been put into prison for, you know, there's the guilt of that, but then there's the inability to do something. And so I think that this training, again, within the larger context of the whole training, is given these men something to contribute in a positive way, which a purpose, you know, and that's huge. So, yeah. And they, you know, I think the other thing I noticed was that because of the prison time, everybody has to wait. They're always waiting. And so there is this distillation, I think, of people's essence. So when they get an opportunity for something, the whole force of their will is put to it. So that's the kind of presence we had in the room. These men knew they had an opportunity and they were going for it, which is, again, powerful.
Yeah. I want to build on that because everybody in there, so I'm not talking about the crime they committed. You know, I'm making up that everybody in there committed a crime. I don't know that for sure, but nobody was saying I'm innocent. And the overriding feeling I got in that group of people was innocence, not of the crime, but innocent as human beings, innocent of, you know, not, you know, they're not in the outside world. So a lot of what's going outside, they're innocent to. And so there was such a sense of gratitude that people from the outside were willing to, you know, spend time with them in this way. And that was equally remarkable, I think, for Anna-Greta and I to experience.
So for other coaches looking to work in similar contexts, what valuable learnings would you like to highlight to inspire them?
You're not there to address their crime. So there's some quote, something like, we are greater than the worst thing than we've ever done, We're more than that. So when Eric and I were teaching, we were not addressing, we don't even know what the crimes were that these men had done. Yeah, we're not looking to heal that or address it in any way. We were actually, again, I go back to working with the creative, resourceful, and whole part of themselves and nourishing that part. Because that, I used to be a guidance counselor years and years ago, and teachers would come to me and they'd say, not all teachers, but some teachers would say, like, he doesn't care, he's failing and he doesn't care. And he was like, this kid was like 12. And I said, I have never met a kid who didn't care that they were failing. So likewise, I don't think nobody's dream is to end up in prison or to commit a crime. That is nobody's dream growing up. So we were there to offer an opportunity to be something more than the worst thing they'd ever done.
If you want to do this kind of work, start with the dream of it. Dream it. That doesn't mean don't take actions, but allow yourself to imagine having that opportunity, and then start speaking it and letting the world know what you're up to, and that will lead to action.
We've actually had the dream for decades, both Eric and we were not, I wasn't looking, every day or anything, but I held the dream for 20 years. I can't believe that's true, but it is.
I know that part of my mission is the exact question that you asked, Rebecca. It's not only for the people that you'll be serving. For me, I get back twofold by being involved in situations like this. So if anybody wants support they don't know how to do it, but they want to do it, doesn't have to be prison. Any place where the phrase that I'm coming up with, part of my mission now is to make the invisible visible. And there are so many places in the world where people, and I'm talking about the mainstream culture, they just don't get seen. They don't get heard. And we, as the mainstream culture, miss out because of that. There's such genius that's not being tapped that we can learn from.
My final round off here. How would you describe Coactive in just one word?
Love.
Love and practice, practice, practice. It takes practice on a daily basis to be coactive.
Thank you both so much for your time today. It's been so wonderful hearing about this and all the work you've been doing. So thank you so much for sharing.